Hi, this is Ed, and welcome to, as you could see, Global HR News, which is a product of Global Business News. And I have to tell you the background a little bit. In 2001, I actually produced a print color glossy magazine called Global HR News, and it was a really big hit at the big conventions of SHRM and World at Work, where I had a booth, and all the HR people that came by said, "Ooh, what's this?" So, hey, the internet did a number on that product, and now I'm bringing back the brand online and as part of our growing live conference business. With us today from Mexico City is Stephen Howard, and you're at the 7,000 foot level?
7,000 meters, I think, about 21,000 feet.
Oh my God, that's really high up.
Yeah. Might be 7,000 feet. I don't know. I get
you, you
confused.
you just get high anyway.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Stephen is the author of Humany, Humony, and it's all about humanyleadership.com, and we're going to hear all about that in just a minute. Also on the program from Mexico City is Alf Maron, and he's now with the International Red Cross, uh, um, newly acquired from a corporate position. Welcome again, Alf.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah,
Nice to
yeah,
be back.
yeah, you bet, you bet. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Latin America and the business growth and your own perspectives. We're going to be joined by at least two others who have who are Latinas, and they are in the U.S. now, but have years and depth of business experience in oil and gas, and they'll be joining us momentarily. Stephen, you've been teaching and conducting leadership training and coaching for a number of years. You've authored what 22 books now?
Correct.
Yeah, and 23 is in the oven. Yeah, and what is 23 going to be about?
Well, 23, 24, and 25 are going to come out together. They're shorter books. They're going to be more tips and technique books. So one's on effective feedback, one's on effective delegation, and one is about communicating as a leader. And the two most important skills of communicating as a leader are probably not what most people think.
Okay, what are they?
Listening and asking questions, which you just exemplified.
And I didn't know what I was doing. So, okay, Alf, you've got years of business experience in corporations and now with the International Red Cross. So that's pretty exciting. So, uh, the International Red Cross gives out a lot of money and help, but it's really a highly structured organization, isn't it?
Yes, actually, it's really organized, and we all depend or and report back to Geneva. And actually, we basically, as a committee, we depend on donors, and so there's a lot of scrutiny of how the money is spent, and actually there's a lot of caution on how this is spent and all of the resources that we have, so we can help as an organization to all of the missions that we have around the world.
So let me ask you a question about flooding and crazy weather impacting a lot of places. There were hurricanes the past year or two in Mexico, just as an example, a lot of damage in Acapulco and uh, California, not so much damage, thankfully, but there's no more drought, that's for sure. Okay, but let's just talk about how the Red Cross gets involved. Do you do it on an aggressive basis, or do you wait to be contacted by somebody who calls out for help?
Um, That depends mainly on the emergency. In these kind of cases, we do it on on call basis. It's not only when you are called out. Also, one of the ways that we have of working together with the let's say the National Red Cross movement, because also we have there's a Red Cross movement on each or many countries, and the international committee also helps through either funding and giving a hand when it's possible in this kind of emergencies. So long story short, it's we do it proactively when the crisis is really hard, and we do it on on-call basis when either the national societies or the governments call us into action.
This show is not political, but everything these days has a touch to that. So has the International Red Cross or the Red Crescent been involved in Gaza?
They are involved. They are involved. That's another part of the movement. We're divided in three. It's the Red Cross of each country, or the national Red Crosses, the international community, which is where I'm working, and the other one it's the International Federation. They are involved, but we as always as a movement of the complete three organizations, we maintain the neutrality between the crisis that we attend.
Yeah, Stephen, what do you think of all that?
I think they do great work. They're always on the front lines of emergencies. I didn't realize that. I appreciate Al describing the difference between being kind of maybe proactive and waiting on standby to be called. I lived in Asia when the tsunami hit, the big Indian Ocean tsunami hit and devastated parts of Sri Lanka and India and Thailand. And I remember the efforts of the Red Cross. I was living in Singapore, and I remember a lot of us were putting together just little kits, toothpaste and toothbrushes and deodorant and soap, packing it up and dropping it off at the Red Cross centers in Singapore, and they were distributing it around the region after that Boxing Day tsunami. So, great work, Elf.
Gee, that's great. Yes, go ahead, Alf.
Yeah, sorry. That's mainly with the national Red Crosses movement, and that they have all this system and all this support from volunteers, because all of those children that do so, and people that are helping it do not receive any remuneration, so they do it for the kindness and helping everybody.
So both of you, I'd like to get some discussion going about the growth, economic growth and development of Mexico in particular, and across the Latin America region. So Stephen, you're originally from the LA region, and now in Mexico City and coming back and forth across the border. So a lot of people are doing that now. There's a lot of business going on.
There's a tremendous amount of business going on in Mexico, partly because of what people call nearshoring. A lot of Asian organizations and European companies are now manufacturing or assembling in Mexico so they can export to both the United States and Canada duty-free or reduced tariffs. The many services companies, I know Hollywood, many movie producers and television producers are now using talent in Mexico, not just filming on location, but actually using Mexican talent for production, set design, the music business. So yeah, there's it's interesting. I'll just say that Mexico is going to have a really good next, I'd say 24 months, because with the election, like in any country, when you have a national election, there's a lot of expenditure, a lot of money being spent in media and events and stuff like that. Plus, don't forget, Mexico is one of the co-hosts for the World Cup in 2 years' time in 2026. So, right now there's a lot of construction work, which will go on for the next 2 years in the infrastructure, the stadiums, as well as the surrounding areas. But then once the World Cup hits, I mean, tourism in this country is going to go right to the roof.
So I was thinking that it would be time for me to come and produce a global HR, global business conference again in Mexico City years ago, with the assistance of Ernst & Young and sponsorship of a large insurance company called AIG, I was able to produce a series in Palenque, and that's where the Ernst & Young offices are or were. I guess they still are there, in a right part of a shopping mall there. It's very nice. And it's time to go back now, whether
It
it's
is.
there or in the downtown.
Or
We
even
also,
Monterrey, which is the tech center now, getting tremendous investment, and even Guadalajara is a lot more investment. You can do 3 series, do a road show at 3 different cities.
I've never been to Monterrey or Guadalajara. I've been to Tijuana, but also Cabo San Lucas and down the Cancun Peninsula.
I say, if you want to do one
And
in Tulum in Cancun, I'll show up.
yeah, we stayed at the Real. I don't know, I forget the name of it. All those hotels there. Um, we also did a number of visits to Puerto Vallarta, which we really liked. Anyway, Mexico City.
Come
Let's
on
do a
down.
meeting. When is a good time to do a meeting there? A live meeting, bringing together people like you and corporate people.
I'd say either June or September. July and August, you start getting, the summer vacation, school holidays, and so you're gonna always get some people gone. But I would do either June or September would be good.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think, Alf?
Um, September, if you come to Mexico City, I think it will be better. It will be a little the weather will be better. The raining season will still be here.
Yeah.
June it will be kind of hot for Mexican city. For people who live in Mexico City, we complain when the temperature goes too up or a little down. So we are kind of spoiled with the weather. But going to, let's say, all the south part, which you mentioned, Tulum or Cancun, that will be kind of it will be cheaper, but it will be not that good, probably because of the storms, and the weather is not going to be that nice. But if you go to Monterrey, I probably suggest to go by the end of the year, so it's not that hot, because it's pretty much like the weather in Texas. Um, and Guadalajara is also another good option. And actually, Guadalajara is quite near Puerto Vallarta. They're in the same state. So those are the 3 points. And the EYE offices, they remain in Polanco in the Antara Mall. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's really interesting. I'll consider that and we'll get back to you. So always looking for sponsors, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and one year I produced a meeting with PwC, the accounting company. This is about 10 years ago, and we did it in downtown in the Camino Real. It was a beautiful place. It was very nice. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on in terms of leadership in Latin America, in Mexico City. Let's talk about that. Uh, typically Mexico has been a male-dominated society, but now you have women who are going to take over the government, and a certain ethnicity is. I mean, it's just shocking, actually, to learn about all that. And so, how are the guys, the typical guys, looking at all that change, Alf?
Well, it's a change that's been happening more in the corporate board. You can see, and not only from, let's say, the functions like HR, that where you can see that leadership is more tendent to have women, but also we have the leadership in other companies. Coca-Cola, at some point, they had their first woman president for Mexico. Let's say like 7 years ago. Galia was the first one who did it, and actually she was also Turkish, so it was are really good, and he had a very strong tenure while she did it. So we already have that in the corporate world. So people is not people are not taking it that bad, or not that bad, I would say, in certain parts, because we're getting used to. And also, well, the Mexican culture had this really strong dependence of the female figure in as a head of household of many families.
So speaking of active females, welcome, Ileana.
Hi, Ed. Hi, everyone.
Yeah,
And
this is Alf, and of course Stephen,
yeah,
and we're waiting for your friend to also come.
yeah, I have sorry, I have trouble. I was actually in another in the Google Meet. So,
Oh, yeah.
but anyway, always glad to be here and always feel welcome
No,
and
thank you.
included.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Okay, so tell us about you. Tell the audience about yourself. You're a longtime professional with Exxon, and you've been an entrepreneur for a while now,
yes,
and that's fun being your own boss, and it enables you to have a diverse life as well.
definitely, and really have been enjoying this year as an entrepreneur. I left ExxonMobil by choice in 2022 as I decided to work independently and do consulting to other audiences, other clients right now, which is mainly government. So, and since then, I really have the opportunity to be my own boss, be the leader to other people, other women, especially other women, because I chose that is to empower other women that are like me, that are probably lacking confidence of whether I do this on my own or should I continue in the corporate world. So it was a big decision, and also female students, because they're thinking where do I fit, especially women engineers. I have my own daughter. She decided to do electrical engineering, and when she was making that decision, her doubts were about, am I going to be the only girl? Are there going to be so? And then we still have that fear around whether we're going to continue being a minority. And but now, since we are here and your program, it's about LatAm, that probably has also an interesting segue on supporting women and also minorities. And minorities have been also Hispanic women, Hispanic people in general. So, and that's one of the things that I've been also working in supporting other minorities, Hispanics, because of the language. I mean, we can talk, but minorities in general, indigenous groups, that's where I'm working in countries where also have indigenous groups. So that I've been able to choose different areas of where do I want to work.
Very interesting. So when you help governments, you said, um, governments that are fortunate to have an oil and gas contract of some kind, and with that comes money, and but it also comes with responsibility of what to do with that. And so, is this what you're helping them do? How to deal with, well, how to organize, how to implement, how to retain uh, productivity.
Yeah.
Um,
I love how you
yeah,
explained it, because it's in simple words. Sometimes I try to explain that and I kind of get it complicated. So I'm gonna take some of your simple words to explain it. But
I'm
yes.
really simple.
So yes, that's pretty much what I'm passionate. That's what ignite my passion. I come from a country, Venezuela, that had it's resource rich, has a lot of resources, but became a petro state, and that petro state is pretty much dependent on oil and gas, 100%. And when you are dependent on just one resource, then you are vulnerable to different, you know, agents. The oil price, COVID was a big one, but with the oil price and anything that happens, look at what's happening with the war in Ukraine. But it's also you turn an industry, or you turn a society into just focusing on oil and gas. So you're only going to graduate engineers that are going to work for oil and gas. You are going to create businesses that will support only oil and gas. So what happened is that other industries are forgotten, and that's what economists have called as the Dutch disease, and then leads to the resource curse. So all these countries that are resource rich have that risk of going that. So what I do is helping them, or working with them to find strategies where they can develop their workforce, where they can develop their suppliers and make them more competitive, and also how they can use influx of expats or foreign investment that comes to their country to transfer knowledge. And all this, well, in oil and gas, it's called local content, but now it has it brings a different dimension. It's part of the social performance of companies in a country. But why government? Typically, people when get out of college, or you want to get a good job, you want to go to a big company that pays you a lot. Governments don't pay a lot, or don't pay good. So that's where you don't get the right people, the smart people, the best professionals in the public sector, because they're not gonna get the what they they invest in their education. So all of them go to the private sector. So I want to help the sector, the government, to build that capacity, to have that knowledge, to do the things that people that work in the private sector do.
Ileana, I
And
want to shift this and grow it into male-female and the culture in Latin America. And Stephen, Alf, please jump in. So I'm going to go to you first, Ileana. How is the business culture, which has been male dominated, dealing with women on the move?
it has been, like I said, business dominated, and that has, to me, based on my experience, can have two consequences. Either you support women because you understand how they need to be developed as an agent of progress and also economic growth. Usually when you have leaders that are male and they have a wife, they have sisters, and they have daughters, probably they have that sensibility more. On the other side, I have experience also when you have female leaders that because women have to compete and we have to thrive among other women, then it gets territorial, and then you don't get the support that you should get from your other women. So that has been kind of my experience in unfortunately it's like that. I don't think it's sometimes sometimes it's personalities, but sometimes is you have to thrive in an area or in a company where you have to compete, but you get the support sometimes from other people, from other women that are outside. Right now, that's another thing that I love after leaving the corporate world, is that my support system, my village, as I call it, is of all women. And all women that we all have kind of the same profile, the same experience, and went through the same challenges. So you see, I have found, and they're all like leaders, like high positions, and I have accomplished a lot. So I'm not saying that. I think it depends. It depends on the background of those leaders. That has been based on my experience.
So are the men, and I want to bring in our two guys here too in this, are men taught how to manage women, or is it instinctive in the culture? Ileana.
I think it in the Latin culture, I think there is the matriarchy is very strong, and I think it comes up in an adult man, and I think again, in my opinion, I have seen, and this is my experience working in Venezuela, not now here in the States, but I could see a little bit of that, is that you bring, that sense of power, but behind that big male leader is a soft boy. This is not an insult, or is it this mama boy that have a mom that still do things for him, and then you on the other side, on the corporate, on the work side, you have a man that can do everything, and it's kind of self-sufficient, and it's a leader. So I think they could be both raised, but I also have to say that when men are raised by women that give them that sense of respect, appreciation, then those are the ones that you will have as the leaders, or your managers, that take care of you, that have that delicate touch on how to bring women to the same level. And there are a lot of them. Luckily, I have two managers when I was in Venezuela that were like that. And I'm sure that has to do with the way they were raised at home, and the Latin culture.
Thank you. Alf, please comment on that.
I guess that's a very good question. I think that we are not prepared sometimes, or prepared well enough in, let's say, in a formal education to manage and to report to women. But as Ileana was mentioning, I completely agree with her. It's how this matriarchate, or those who have been, or those of us who grew up in this kind of a family, we are probably more used to. But other than that, I guess that we should be open to learn more on how to manage talent in general, and I guess this Steven is the expert on this, but how to manage this talent, and how can we interact and be better managers and subordinates to women.
Yeah. So, Stephen, you and I have had several conversations about leadership, and one of the more recent ones was about delegating and how to delegate. So, Eliana, you sent me a note about role models and favoritism in the group setting. So I want to get everybody talking now. So, Stephen, if you could just lead about how to delegate today, particularly in the setting that we're just describing now.
All right, see if I can pull this together. Many, particularly mid-level managers, are afraid to delegate. But they're afraid because if they delegate to somebody and that person doesn't deliver upon promises or upon expectations, then they get blamed for it. The manager gets blamed for it. But what I try and teach people is that when you delegate responsibility, but you have to maintain accountability. And so few people do that. When they delegate, sometimes they abdicate. If I delegate to, say, Alf to do something, and then I just let him go, and he doesn't perform, well, that's on me, and I'm not doing a good job of mentoring and coaching and leading him to help him succeed. Not that you wouldn't, Alf, I realize, but so that's kind of a part of the delegation is, and also the other thing that I find too many leaders can't get past this concept of, well, I can do it faster, I can do it quicker. Well, yes, you can. That's why you're the leader, but that's not your job. Your job is to be more strategic, to spend that time, say if it's a 2-hour task, spend that time thinking of something. Think of something, think of how you can coach and develop your people. And if the other person takes 4 hours to do it, that's fine. The 4 hours of them getting the job done is better than you spending 2 hours doing it, because your time is more valuable to the company. Bigger picture type stuff. So those are the two elements of delegation I think people have a hard time doing. And it's not gender related. It doesn't matter. It's position related, hierarchical related in an organization more than gender related.
Ileana, so how does this relate to recruiting and selecting talent for specific roles?
Is the way I see it is the typical gender bias. I think some companies are doing this just to check the box that you need to have a quota, or at least few years ago, when the whole thing of you started listening about this inclusion and diversity started, it was okay. You just need to bring more women. There are countries that you don't have a choice because the only women is the only force, labor force. An example is Russia. In 10, 15 years ago, I was an expert in tackling in Russia, and I was surprised by how many women there. And I said, why are so many only women? I mean, I would say 80% of the workforce there were women at the corporate, at the business function, not in operations. And pretty much I say is because the men are pretty much don't deliver. They're either had that, you know, ghost of the Cold War, or they were alcoholics, or and then you have all these women working and getting prepared. So that there was no choice. But then when I'm gonna come here in the States 20 years ago, then I see that, yeah, there are a lot of professional, well-prepared women, but I feel that I'm just being part of a quota. And then the way they recruit, and you hear it's not you're not making that up. You hear, well, we need to hire X number of women and X percentage of this ethnicity and that. So it, in a way, it's like checking the box. So I wish those things will change, but I think there's still the bias that for some positions, then male is the choice.
Ed, I think you're on mute. I
Yeah.
can't hear you. Or your microphone dropped off. No, your microphone dropped off.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so Alf, you've recently transitioned from a corporate role and a senior role of Syngenta, and now you're involved with the International Red Cross. And so NGO, is that female dominated?
Uh, no, actually, it's actually quite eclectical. Let's say it's so that is something that it's for those of us who have been around for some years. How this environment of the offices have changed, and how we accept people more that we used to in the past. So it's not a female dominated, but there's a large quantity of people who work here as either kind of sexuality or how they represent themselves. But we maintain an equilibrium, and what I have seen either in the private sector and here is that in the latest probably 10, 12 years, this acceptance has been really quite nice because people have been accepting and embracing all of different thinking and genders and way of people perceiving themselves.
So, Stephen, about role models and teaching, I think you've touched on this in the past, if I heard it correctly, that the best leader is a role model rather than a hands-on, and is a best leader is, and I'm trying to paraphrase what you've taught me, is not a dictator, but an implementer.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ways I'd say a great leader would be. One is kind of takes what Ronald Reagan used to say, is that a great leader hires really good people and then gets out of their way, or sets a strategy and gets out of their way. And I'm paraphrasing, what the former president said here. But I think the other key thing about a great leader is that a great leader develops other leaders, not followers. And that's different than the 1980s. I mean, 1980s, 1990s, your definition of a great leader was the more people reporting to you. You want to keep build your empire within the organization. I'm sure Ileana saw this within ExxonMobil for many years, that people wanted to have departments of 40, 50, 60 people because that made them look bigger in the organization. But that's not being a great leader. That's just trying to go up your hierarchy at that time, and that doesn't apply anymore in today's world.
Want to welcome Maritza. Thank you for coming, Maritza.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm sorry for being a bit late.
No, it's quite all right. We've been entertained and taught by Ileana. and so your background was also ExxonMobil, right?
Yes, I work for ExxonMobil as well as I have my coaching business. So how to magnify impact for leaders. So I do both.
Yes. So we've been talking about women in the workplace and women in positions and how things are changing, not only in politics in Mexico, but Ileana has been very explanatory about the best male leaders are already trained to welcome women leaders. And do you see that also?
Yes, I think that women are changing roles and you see very effective leaders, women as well as men. So I think that there has been, I call it, I like to use the word symbiosis, where feminine traits and masculine traits coming together actually has made the business world and leadership stronger. Because having women in the boardrooms actually have made it okay to talk about care, to talk about feelings, to talk about what is the experience that we want to bring into our organization, not just the part of results and the technical and the hardcore things of leadership, but also bringing the emotions that usually if you think about a mother and a father, the conjunction of two forces is what actually completes the picture. So I think having women and male leaders has actually magnified and broadened the ability of a leader to express fully themselves.
So it's a family ideal that's brought into the workplace.
More than a family ideal, I think is a framework that everybody understands. Everybody have had, or most everybody, I will say, I'm not going to generalize, a mother and a father, and we see how those roles actually play. So if actually you bring it into the business world, that's a way on which you can think about leadership. So I was watching a video from Simon Sinek yesterday, which says leadership is misunderstood because you can be a leader. Sorry, I have my phone here. You can be a leader that people follow you because of the authority that you have. But truly leadership should be taking care and helping rise everybody that is up to your care. So that is kind of like the father and mother analogy that I am bringing for discussion.
Thank you. Stephen, can you comment on that?
Yeah, and it summarizes the concept behind humanity. I mean, these are human traits. And once we start bringing humanity back into the workplace, or maybe for the first time into the workplace, these are the traits. These are the important things. I mean, going back to what you and Ileana were talking about earlier, I think one of the beautiful things coming out of the pandemic is that we start to realize that we lead human beings, and whether they're male or female, and they have responsibilities, they have concerns as human beings. And this is whether you're a male leading a woman, female leading a man, doesn't matter. Just to understand. And look, there are certain there are certain things that apply, whether it's gender related or age related. Look, if you're leading 50-year-olds, chances are they're going to have more medical issues than a 20-year-old typically. Well, if you're leading a woman, in their 40s or early 50s, you have to understand she's going to go through menopause. And whether you're a male or female leader, these are the topics we need to talk about in the workplace and understand and be empathetic with, understand that they're going to have certain days that are good and certain days that are bad. Well, just like if you're a male and you have, a little bit of ADHD, you're going to have some good days and some bad days. Well, let's treat people as human beings, not as men, not as women, not as millennials, not as baby boomers, but as human beings. Sorry, that's my soapbox for today.
And if I may just say something, because I love what Stephen is saying, but there is one equalizer for everybody, men, woman, and any type of thing. If there is one thing that every human being wants, and this is not something I said, but actually Oprah said, every human being highest desire is to feel seen, heard, and what I say matters. So
understood.
regardless of the circumstance that I have as a leader, am I being present at the moment today for the people that I lead? Can I understand where are they coming from? What are the challenges? What excites them? And how do I inspire and connect with their hearts, minds, and souls so they're there to become better individuals and help drive extraordinary business results? So I think that there is a lot of noise that we're going to have to experience as leaders. But if we can just do that thing of helping people be present so people feel seen, heard, and what they say matters, it's kind of like you can focus and become a more effective leader just by doing that one thing.
Fascinating. Stephen, how are you going to incorporate that kind of thing into your next books?
No, it's already in human added. That's exactly what we're talking about. Is that you have to lead everyone differently. I mean, if everyone in this call was reporting to me, I'd have to lead Ileana differently. I'd have to coach her differently than I would coach you or lead you. I'd have to mentor everybody differently. The old way of my way or the highway will not work in today's world. And unfortunately, there are a lot of leaders in their 50s or late 50s, early 60s who won't make that change. They say, this is who I am. Well, this is who you are, but there's a cost. You can be successful today. You can still be the control and command type leader, but there's a cost. There's a cost in terms of the health and well-being of the people reporting to you. There's a cost in terms of you're going to have, I would bet, higher employee turnover than somebody else who leads people on a more humane basis. You may get the results, but there's going to be a cost to those results, and it's going to impact the bottom line. It's going to impact the health and well-being of your employees. It's what you want to live with.
Alf?
Well, basically, I think that Maritza and Steven were really right on spot. The way that we manage ourselves is really different, and we have to learn. Something that I like to say, probably like someone else, I don't want to take the credit about that, but it's teach by learning and learn by teaching. So we always can learn from everybody, and the people can learn from us. And what Marisa summarized, I guess that's right on spot. We want to be heard, we want to be taken into consideration, and that what we are providing is it matters, and because I know that I want it, I know that my team wants to, then we can come to this kind of agreement. And just as Steven said, we all are different, and we all have how to manage ourselves, so how to manage the team that we have based on the things that they are not capable. I don't want to say capable, but that the things that they success, and that the success that they can have, it's better with all the abilities that they can develop or have the strengths that they have. So I think that those were right on spot.
Stephen?
I would add to what Alf just said, if I could add real fast, is that a leader used to want to be the smartest person in the room. Today, a great leader creates the smartest room possible. It doesn't have to be the smartest, but you get the best talent around you and listen carefully to their ideas. You're going to make a decision as a leader, but listen carefully to their ideas. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room anymore.
That's what I wish, if I had like a magic wand to make companies elevate or give more importance to the emotional intelligence of people rather than you know the IQ, the typical, the traditional here, is because we need more leaders. We need more people that can balance and do what you were saying, Stephen, that you have a team, you have a group, and you're going to have people, you're going to have the baby boomers, you're going to have the women that are going through menopause, you're going to have the young girls that want to have babies and they're going to go on maternity leave, and then you have people with ADHD that don't need to say that they have ADHD and things like that. So you need to have that sensibility or that sense to differentiate in how to apply. And that doesn't mean that, oh, I will need more time to give special attention to that. No, it's just really, I think one of the skills or qualities of a person is being a good listener. And that's really doesn't, you're not using more of your time. You're just being very attentive. You're listening. That to me is the one of the best qualities a person can have.
And to add to what Eliana's saying, I said, being a leader that can listen and not have an agenda to be pushed, but being a leader to be there to provide more value than what I take, and just be very masterful at asking lofty questions, meaning what are those questions that is going to generate that synergy in the room to create more, I think is one of the biggest gifts that we can give ourselves, as well as the teams that we work with. And personally and professional, that seems to be true.
Let's talk about the transformation that's apparently going on out there in the workplace, workplaces, office and remote. So Maritza, I'm looking at your LinkedIn here in the section where you write care less, be less, do less, a counterintuitive approach to navigating change. Please go deeper.
You know, we become to be experts at our trade, and the world is changing so fast that if I continue to go deeper on what I know, I lose sight of the changes that are coming around me. So if I just hold on to this is how things need to be done, it makes it harder for change to come and harder for me to assimilate what's new. So it's like Blockbuster and Netflix. If I say, no, this is the way that needs to happen, I miss the boat, and then a Netflix come and you're out of the market, not because what you have to offer is not good. Actually, it should be great, but it's not accompanied to where the business world is moving. So when I say I need to care less, do less, and be less, is to open space for the new and don't lose sight of that. Because if I'm so tied to what I do and what I think things are done, the world is going to keep going, and I will just keep holding onto that, and I may miss the boat. Like we have seen many trends in industry, like the example I just provided you between Blockbuster and Netflix. So that is what I mean. It's a way on letting go so you can let in the new, and you can adjust and you can continue to shape yourself into that future version where your current skills become applicable to where the world is going.
So then how does a leader, particularly a woman leader, within not a male-dominated environment, but maybe historically in that situation, how does a woman leader do that or communicate that so that the people understand the transformation better and what you're suggesting? How do you communicate that change?
I like to say, I'm going to use an analogy. One of the things that I do to get to know myself is dance. And when you ask me that question, the first image that comes to my mind, imagine a silk going through the wind, and it's just moving towards the direction that the wind is bringing it. I continue to be myself. I continue to do work on myself to know who am I, what is the value that I bring, what is my mission and my purpose, how does that connect with my organization to drive business results, but I flow with it. It's kind of like I look for the flow on where the winds are going. So I continue to be true to myself, but also to adjust to what is coming. So if you think about silk, silk is very feminine. Silk is pretty. Silk is soft. I'm not going against the current. So being a woman is like, how do I bring my feminine energy? How do I become an example of doing that? But silk is tough. Silk has a presence. Silk also has a very high value. So if you think about the qualities of silk and the ability to just flow and to take the form and the shape with a very soft touch, I think that that is what we can bring. Because what I've seen is women that in order to be successful in the business world, they become very tough. Tougher than a man. And sometimes you hear the saying, I prefer not to work for a woman because they're so tough and like they just forget about that side. That actually, what would happen if you do business with a human woman approach? And there is many men that have that approach, not because of being men or women, but it's just like with a focus of how do I want people to feel after the interaction? What is my intention for people to feel after they have had an interaction with me? Because people remember how you make them feel, not necessarily what you said. And
It's
people
really
will go
interesting.
miles and mountains for how you make them feel.
So with a change in government leaders in Mexico coming, one way or another, it's coming, and there's going to be a woman leader. And how I think you should be a coach to both of them and see which one wins. It won't matter, but that approach and how they communicate that in their actions and their speech making and being on TV or whatever, and with that same example of silk in the wind and yet being resilient because it's still there and it still retains its value, as you said, that is really going to be interesting to watch. Stephen, how could you coach that new leader, either one of those ladies, to exhibit that behavior to the country, which is very diverse? And Mexico is not one image. It's a lot of images, a lot of different states, a lot of different geography, cultures.
I'll pick up on a word that I think Maritza used, and that's be authentic, be yourself. I mean, don't try and fake it. But understand that you're going to run a country of, I don't know, whatever it is, 80 something million people, I think it is. You're going to lead a country. Understand how you're going to, but you're really going to impact the cabinet, sort of the senior leaders of the country. How are you going to work with them? One of the interesting things I've noticed so far from what I've watched of the two ladies who were leading for the presidency, both of them tend to be polite. They're both very strong. They're both very committed to what they believe in, and they believe in different things, which is why they're in opposite parties. But neither one is denigrating. And I think one of the problems we have right now in the world, particularly with some male leaders or former leaders, their sound bites are all negative. Even here in Mexico, the president often will demean his detractors. He'll talk, whether it's a journalist or a former president or whatever. There's a meanness to leadership, political leadership around the world. And hopefully, whichever woman wins the Mexican presidential election in June or July, hopefully they'll bring a little less meanness to the what they say and to our country, to our world. Sorry, Alf had to go. I'm sorry, I slowed down there. I saw Alf's hand up. I thought I wanted to make a comment. I didn't realize he was waving goodbye there. So, I think I'd like to challenge everyone in your audience, not just those on the panel here today, but what can each of us do to make the world a kinder, more peaceful, more compassionate place in just our little corners, whether it's the way we smile to people, the way we let somebody, I was coaching somebody the other day and they were so angry about getting cut off in traffic. And I said, let it go. Just why do you want to get in a road rage argument with somebody just because they drive up the backside of your car and then honk as they drive by and why don't you just let them go? Just keep your world peaceful and extend that to other people. So that's my challenge to everybody. That's where I am today in March. I want a more peaceful, more compassionate, more kind world. And find leaders who can do that.
I want to join Steven's call of action because I love what you just said. And I'm gonna really focus it into actions.
All right.
What are you going to acknowledge today? Choose two people. Acknowledge for what you're grateful about them. And just think about that gratefulness, that action that they did for you, and really enjoy it. Because the more that we acknowledge what is good in the world and the things that we're grateful for, we're attracting more of that. So think about the magnet of when you do those two actions, and if you do that just 2 times a day, you are bringing exactly that into your reality. And just by the small daily actions is how we transform realities.
And there's the power, and I call it the power of 5 because I like to tell people do it to 5 people.
Awesome.
But Jeanette, let's take your example of 2 people. You're nice to 2 people, and each of them is nice to 2 other people during the day. Yeah. So there's now 4 more people, and each of those 4 people is nice to 2 more people. Now we're up to like 16, and then it's 32. And at the end of the day, just by being nice to 2 people, we could have an impact on 100 people indirectly.
That's what when I saw the movie, and it was the movie was Paid Forward.
Oh, Pay It Forward, yeah.
That movie changed my life because and then I apply it, and every time I do something for someone and they say, oh, I don't know how to pay you, or thank you, Leo, pay it forward. Don't pay for me, pay it forward. And because that's how you multiply the energy. And I believe a lot in energy in what you both were saying, and you always have the really good words. That's why you're in coaching. But it's really about change, transforming the energy. I was reading somewhere, and it was in Spanish, but it said when people thank you, don't say, oh, de nada, or oh, or no, accept it and say, oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Like accept that. Don't diminish the value of what you're doing, because in Spanish, when you say you're welcome, it's de nada. No, it's not for nothing. It has. So you're kind of cutting or diminishing the energy of the appreciation. So
excellent. Thank you for being on Global HR News. And please come back. Let's multiply this.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Maritza, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. I look forward to watching more of your shows and maybe participate on another one. Thank you.
Well, I certainly hope so. And Stephen and I were discussing earlier the likelihood that I'm going to come into Mexico City and produce a live in-person meeting. And if so, I will certainly notify you when I get it together, and would invite you to come and speak.
Let me know if you're interested in coming to Houston. I can bring like all the speakers to that village of women that I was talking about, and Maritza is one of them. We have a group, like our own village of powerful women, and powerful not because of the positions we have. It's because all we do, and it's great.
Yeah, AIG in Houston was my host partner for a couple of years before they changed their, not because of me, but they had changes, and now they're not doing it. But I would love to come back into Houston. It's a great market. Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Ciao.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day. Bye
Ciao.
bye.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I'll send you this program later today.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.